We're counting down the 6 most disturbing scenes in 80s action movies, a decade when explosions and one-liners masked some truly unsettling moments. From roadside horrors that build relentless psychological dread to infamous displays of gore and agony, this ranking covers the grittiest emotional gut punches, body horror shocks, and brutal set pieces that left audiences stunned. Starting with number 6. Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior. Before the era of exploding torsos and splattered prosthetics, George Miller's Wasteland set a different kind of trap. Here, brutality isn't about blood. It's about what's left behind. Marauder vehicles bristle with human skulls and animal bones, welded to grills and mirrors as trophies. The art department scoured junkyards for real detritus, building a world where every ornament is a warning. Wide shots linger on burned-out cars and sun-bleached corpses, the Australian outback stripped bare by violence. Cinematographer Dean Semler's harsh palette turns the landscape into a graveyard, while Miller's camera cuts away from the act of killing, forcing you to imagine what happened. It's the threat in the silence, the aftermath in the sand, that gets under your skin. The Road Warrior doesn't need gore to disturb. It just leaves you stranded with the bones. Number 5. Aliens. LV-426 cocooned colonists. The moment Ripley and the Marines step into the hive, the tone shifts from military rescue to something far more intimate and horrifying. Human bodies, half swallowed by the walls, are fused into latex cocoons that glisten with slime and pulse with a sickly sheen. Stan Winston's team built these prosthetics to look organic and suffocating. Actors were wrapped in pre-molded latex, airbrushed to match the alien resin, then sprayed down with glycerin for that wet, half-digested effect. The real punch comes when a colonist's face emerges from the cocoon, eyes wide, mouth barely moving, begging to be killed before the chestburster inside erupts. There's almost no music, just the low hum of the hive and a muffled, unnatural quiet. Sound designers stripped out heartbeats and familiar cues, leaving only a distant, inhuman drone. In a film built on gunfire and explosions, this is a violation the Marines can't shoot their way out of. The horror isn't just what's been done to the body, it's how little of the person is left inside. Number 4. Predator. Jungle Trophy Kills. 3 flayed bodies hang upside down from a jungle tree, stripped of skin and left as a warning. Stan Winston's team built these corpses from foam latex and fiberglass, wiring them into the canopy for maximum shock. Skulls and spines, each sculpted for anatomical detail, dot the undergrowth, not as random gore, but as a calculated display. This is not chaos, it's ritual. The Predator hunts with intelligence, tracking soldiers through thermal vision, actual heat signatures captured with a FLIR camera, digitally processed to turn human beings into anonymous shapes of light. The effect is chilling. Men become prey, reduced to heat and movement, their identities erased. The jungle set, dressed by John Vallone, is a trophy room, every bone and skull placed to amplify the sense of a methodical collector at work. In Predator, violence becomes ceremony. The horror isn't just in the bodies, it's in the cold alien logic behind them. Survivors move through the trees, haunted by the knowledge that they were being watched, selected, and stripped of their humanity one by one. Number 3. Rambo. First Blood Part 2. Torture Sequence. The leech pit and bamboo electrocution scenes in Rambo, First Blood Part 2 are more than just action set pieces. They're a fever dream of Cold War paranoia, filtered through the lens of American POW mythology. Stallone's Rambo, stripped to the waist and lashed to a makeshift bamboo crucifix, endures staged electrocution by sneering Soviet and Vietnamese captors, a spectacle that echoes the era's obsession with missing soldiers and government betrayal. The script, reshaped by Stallone from James Cameron's more procedural draft, dials up the agony and the symbolism. Rambo's suffering is both literal and political, a crucible of pain that justifies his eventual rampage. Real leeches were used in the infamous pit sequence. Stallone himself let them latch on, joking later about the discomfort but insisting it was worth it for realism. The bamboo rig was carefully constructed with on-set medics and stunt teams monitoring every take to prevent actual harm, but the illusion of agony is relentless. Critics called out the scene's excess, while some veterans groups protested its cartoonish brutality and the way it blurred fantasy with real trauma. Yet for audiences in 1985, the spectacle of torture wasn't just about shock. It was a cathartic stand-in for national wounds that had never quite healed. In Rambo, pain becomes politics, and the scars are meant for everyone to see. Number 2, The Terminator. Police Station Massacre. It's late at night, fluorescent lights flicker, and the front desk sergeant barely looks up as a hulking figure steps inside. In a film obsessed with the idea of unstoppable force, this is the moment the Terminator becomes a walking nightmare. No speeches, no negotiation, just cold, mechanical slaughter. The scene unfolds with a clinical detachment. Schwarzenegger's cyborg moves down the corridor, shotgun in hand, squeezing the trigger again and again. Each shot is a punctuation mark, every body in uniform just another obstacle. Cameron's budget was tight, so the set is cramped, the lighting harsh, and the violence unrelenting. There's almost no music, just the echo of gunfire and the thud of bodies hitting linoleum. In the lobby, a single-take sweep shows the carnage: shattered glass, overturned chairs, a dispatcher slumped over her console. The massacre isn't stylized or heroic. It's a systematic erasure, the kind of violence that leaves no room for hope or heroics. Test audiences recoiled at the sheer speed and indifference of the killing, prompting Cameron to trim only seconds, just enough to keep the R rating, not enough to blunt the impact. What sets this apart isn't the gore, but the sense of inevitability. Civilians, cops, secretaries, none of it matters. The Terminator is pure function, pure death, and the massacre is its mission statement. Even in a decade crowded with action spectacle, no other scene captures the terror of being utterly powerless in the face of something that cannot be reasoned with, cannot be stopped, and will not hesitate. The horror here isn't personal, it's mechanical, and that's what makes it unforgettable. And finally, in first place, RoboCop, Alex Murphy's execution. No other scene in 80s action cinema lands with the force and finality of this one. Paul Verhoeven's camera refuses to look away as Clarence Boddicker's gang corners Murphy, strips him of his weapon, and begins a ritual of humiliation. The violence isn't just graphic, it's methodical. Botton's effects team built a fiberglass replica of Peter Weller's arm, loaded with squibs and tubing, just for the moment when a shotgun blast blows Murphy's hand clean off. The gang laughs, Murphy staggers, and the torment escalates, each shot carefully mapped out in storyboards, each blood spurt engineered for maximum impact. The unrated cut lingers even longer, letting the camera hold on Murphy's agony, his body convulsing as squibs detonate across his chest. Beneath the set, a bicycle-powered rig makes the puppet torso thrash, selling the illusion of a man being torn apart in real time. The final shot comes almost as an act of mercy, a blast to the head delivered by Clarence himself, ending the ordeal. But the horror doesn't stop at anatomy. Murphy's arms are spread, his body crucified in a pose that Verhoeven has called a deliberate echo of martyrdom, a cop sacrificed on the altar of corporate Detroit. The MPAA demanded frame-by-frame edits, trimming seconds of blood and laughter. But even the theatrical cut is relentless. Crew members later described the reset process, hours spent reloading squibs and cleaning up blood, all to preserve the illusion of a death that feels both endless and inevitable. Weller's own account of the shoot is clinical, almost detached. He talks about safety glass, barriers, and the professionalism needed to survive the day. Yet what lingers is the sense of violation, of a man erased so that a machine can be born. RoboCop's execution scene isn't just the most disturbing moment of the decade. It's the one that leaves you feeling complicit, forced to watch as humanity is stripped away, frame by frame, for the sake of progress. No other sequence combines technical mastery, thematic weight, and sheer brutality with such cold precision. This is the apex. There's nowhere left to go. From the bleak roadside warnings of Mad Max to the relentless carnage of the Terminator and the brutal, drawn-out execution in RoboCop, this countdown has covered 6 of the most disturbing scenes ever captured in 80s action cinema. What stands out across all entries is how these films push past simple shootouts, using ritualized violence, body horror, and psychological dread to leave lasting scars on viewers. Whether it's the cold efficiency of a machine, the political torture of Rambo, or Murphy's agonizing ordeal, each scene earned its place for combining graphic impact with emotional or thematic weight. Consistently, the most disturbing moments didn't rely on gore alone. They built unease through context, character, and a sense that anyone could become a victim. These scenes remind us why 80s action movies are more than popcorn entertainment. They reflect the anxieties and boundaries of their era, challenging audiences as much as they thrill. In the end, the most shocking entries don't just show violence, they force us to confront its consequences, both on screen and in the culture that created them. We're counting down the 7 most disturbing kills in Predator, ranking everything from chaotic, bullet-filled massacres to spine-chilling alien trophy rituals. But none come close to the pure nightmare fuel we'll reveal at the very top. Before we get to the truly infamous moments, let's kick things off with a surprising entry, a kill that set the ruthless tone for everything to come. Number 7. The Guerrilla Camp Massacre. Dutch and his squad unleash a barrage of bullets, grenades, and flamethrowers on the unsuspecting jungle outpost, turning a covert rescue into a full-blown slaughter. The carnage is relentless. Extras rigged with record-setting squibs drop left and right, pyrotechnics ignite huts, and bodies are torched amid the chaos. Handheld cameras weave through the smoke and debris, capturing the confusion and moral ambiguity as the supposed heroes mow down enemies with military precision. This sequence set the film's baseline for violence, brutal, excessive, and all too human, before the real horror even arrives. In 1987, this was action cinema pushed to the edge, normalizing a level of brutality that made the Predator's later trophy kills feel like the next logical step. Number 6. Rick Hawkins's off-screen dismemberment. Hawkins, played by Shane Black, the screenwriter moonlighting as the team's bespectacled wisecracker, was the first of Dutch's crew to fall to the jungle's real threat. But his death isn't about blood spray or camera tricks. It's about what you don't see. One moment, he's chasing Anna through the vines. The next, he's gone, snatched by an invisible force. Director John McTiernan scrapped the original, more graphic kill, opting instead for a quick, unseen attack and a body that vanishes into the undergrowth. Later, Dutch and Pancho stumble across what's left. Hawkins, diced up and barely recognizable, scattered in pieces. The aftermath is all practical effects, silicone flesh, latex, and syrup blood, left for the audience to process in a single, sickening reveal. The imagination fills in the blanks, making this kill more disturbing than any on-screen gore. Sometimes, what's left unseen is what really sticks. Number 5. Blaine's cauterized chest blast. Jesse Ventura's Blaine towers over the squad, chewing tobacco and lugging the infamous minigun, Ol' Painless, like it's a toy. But swagger means nothing to the Predator's plasma cannon. One second, Blaine is scanning the jungle. The next, a searing blue bolt punches a fist-sized tunnel straight through his chest, cauterizing the wound so cleanly there's barely a drop of blood. The effect is surgical, almost clinical, and it leaves Ventura's character with a gaping, smoking hole. No time to bleed, just like he bragged earlier. The irony landed hard with audiences, but not as hard as the gore. Test screenings in 1987 triggered audible gasps, forcing the studio to trim a few frames and dampen the sound mix. Behind the scenes, Ventura wore a fiberglass chest plate rigged with squibs, foam tissue, and hidden battery packs. A practical effect so violent, the crew shielded the camera with plexiglass. Even the minigun itself needed car batteries to power its barrel, making every take a logistical nightmare. Blaine's death signals a turning point. The carnage isn't just implied anymore. It's right there, front and center, daring you to look away. Number 4. Mac's close-range head blast. Bill Duke's Mac spends half the movie teetering on the edge, shaving his scalp raw, haunted by the jungle. When he finally gets a shot at the predator, it's not a fair fight. He creeps into position, sweat dripping, eyes locked on the tree line. Then a trio of laser dots crawl across his arm. The payoff isn't a drawn-out struggle or a heroic last stand. It's an execution. The Predator's plasma cannon fires at point-blank range, and the effect is immediate. Mac's head erupts in a spray of blood and brain matter, so close that droplets splatter across the camera lens. That lens choice wasn't an accident. Director John McTiernan wanted the audience to feel the impact, not just see it. The sound mix layers in a faint insect click just before the shot, dialing up the tension. Oddly, Mac's head appears intact in later shots, a continuity hiccup left behind after the original throat-slitting plan was swapped for something more visceral. This is where the film stops being pure action and slides into horror, forcing viewers to confront violence at its most personal and inescapable. Number 3. Dylan's severed arm and impalement. Carl Weathers goes from action hero bravado to instant victim in a sequence that's part splatter showcase, part censorship legend. The Predator's plasma cannon shears off Dylan's arm at the shoulder, but the real showstopper is what happens next. The severed limb, still clutching an MP5, keeps firing in a mechanical spasm thanks to a twitching animatronic rig built by Stan Winston's crew. Weathers wore a harness with his real arm strapped behind his back, while a foam rubber prosthetic painted with silicone muscle and piped with vinyl blood tubes took the hit. Effects techs rehearsed the twitch for days, dialing in just the right amount of nerve jangle before the arm drops. But the MPAA nearly killed the whole thing. Early cuts lingered on the bloody stump and writhing fingers, triggering threats of an X rating unless the gore was trimmed. Even after edits, the impalement that follows, Predator's wrist blades punching through Dylan's chest, had to be staged with a spring-loaded rig and compressed air blood squib, tested repeatedly for safety. The result? A mutilation so over the top it became a franchise benchmark, and a headache for the censors. In second place, the Predator's Meat Locker trophy display takes disturbing to a different level. When Dutch and his battered squad stumble into the jungle clearing, what they find isn't just another body. It's a tableau straight out of a nightmare. Blue light flickers over a row of hanging corpses, scalped and flayed, their flesh stripped down to raw muscle and bone. Fluids drip from the bodies, pooling beneath them and filling the air with a sense of rot and decay. These aren't quick kills or battlefield casualties. They're trophies, arranged with almost ritualistic care, a silent message from the Predator about who's really in control. This sequence doesn't just up the gore, it redefines the rules. The violence suddenly feels less like random slaughter and more like a calculated hunt, with each kill collected and displayed as proof of dominance. Behind the scenes, Stan Winston's team built full-scale dummies, layering latex, silicone, and painted foam to create the illusion of freshly butchered flesh. Concept art and storyboards reveal that the filmmakers saw this as the film's turning point, when the jungle stops being a war zone and becomes the Predator's personal hunting ground. Studio marketing steered clear of these images, keeping the flayed bodies out of posters and trailers, a move that matched the era's unwritten rule to never advertise your most grotesque secrets. In Predator, the Meat Locker scene transforms violence into ritual and sets the stage for the film's most infamous trophy kill. And finally, in first place, the spine-rip trophy kill that cemented Predator's reputation for pure, unfiltered horror. After Billy's last stand on the log, the aftermath delivers the film's most infamous image, the Predator tearing Billy's skull and spine from his corpse, claiming the ultimate trophy. This wasn't just a throwaway shock, it was the moment that made the monster. Stan Winston's crew spent weeks engineering the prosthetic, a cable-rigged torso with layered latex, blood gel, and a custom-built spinal column designed to ooze and glisten under the lights. The skull and vertebrae, painted with silicone washes and streaked with syrup blood, had to look freshly torn, sinew and nerve endings dangling in the jungle heat. Tom Woodruff Jr. called it the sequence that defined what the Predator was all about as a movie monster. Behind the scenes, things got intense. Crew members reportedly grew queasy as the effects team rehearsed the extraction, adjusting cable tension and blood flow to get the right balance between anatomical detail and sheer gore. The first takes were so graphic that the MPAA demanded trims. Frames of the actual rip were shortened, and the most explicit close-ups never made it to theaters. Even Jesse Ventura, who'd already seen his own chest blown apart, admitted, "That's the nastiest thing I've ever seen on set." No other moment in Predator matches the combination of technical mastery, raw brutality, and lasting impact. The spine rip didn't just end Billy's story. It became the signature of the franchise, the trophy ritual every sequel tried to top, but never quite equaled. For practical effects fans, it stands as the apex of late 80s gore. All cables, latex, and draw blood, executed with a reverence for the grotesque that still inspires awe decades later. From the brutal guerrilla massacre that set the film's violent tone to the iconic spine-rip trophy kill that cemented Predator's place in cinematic horror history, this countdown has shown how the movie's most disturbing moments weren't just about gore, but about escalation, ritual, and technical mastery. Across all 7 entries, a clear pattern emerges. Each kill grows more personal and inventive, moving from chaotic human combat to the Predator's calculated hunt and grisly trophies. The most shocking entries, like Dylan's twitching severed arm, the chilling meat locker tableau, and Billy's unforgettable spine extraction, stand out not just for their graphic nature, but for how they push the boundaries of practical effects and psychological dread. What qualified each moment wasn't just bloodshed, but how it advanced the film's shift from action spectacle to pure horror. Ultimately, Predator's disturbing kills serve as a masterclass in suspense, special effects, and genre blending, leaving an impact that's lasted for decades. This list proves that in Predator, the real terror isn't just what you see, it's how far the hunt will go. We're counting down the 6 most disturbing kills and near-fatal moments from Rambo: First Blood. From humiliating assaults and brutal man-versus-nature encounters to the single on-screen death that stunned audiences, these scenes didn't just push the boundaries of 1980s action, they left viewers with images they'd never forget. Some are shocking for their raw violence, others for the psychological wounds they inflict, but none are as haunting as what's coming up later in this ranking. First, let's kick things off with a savage burst of brutality that set the tone for Rambo's rampage: the police station beating and escape. Rambo's ordeal starts not with gunfire, but with humiliation, stripped, hosed down, and strung up by his arms, while deputies jeer and threaten him with a straight razor. The camera lingers on sweat and bruises, the air thick with the sound of boots and nervous laughter. No blood is spilled, but the cruelty is relentless, pushing Rambo's mind back to jungle captivity. Stallone's performance turns every flinch and flashback into a warning shot. This is the moment the war comes home. The sequence rattled censors, flagged for its psychological intensity rather than gore. Actors left the set bruised, the realism too raw to fake. It's not a kill, but it's the death of restraint, and it sets the stage for everything that follows. Number 5, the pig hunt survival kill. Rambo's shift from hunted man to primal survivor comes into focus the moment he stalks a wild boar in the forest. There's no drawn-out fight, just guttural squeals, a flash of his survival knife, and the unmistakable sound of flesh meeting steel. The camera never lingers on the animal, but the violence lands through sound design, amplified squealing, wet thuds, and Rambo's own animal grunts. No real pig was harmed. The production used a trained animal, practical blood effects, and layered audio to sell the brutality. Still, the implication is enough to unsettle. It's a kill that feels raw and necessary, bridging Rambo's institutional humiliation with the savage demands of the wilderness. For audiences, the off-screen violence is almost worse than seeing it, suggesting that, out here, survival means embracing instincts most men would rather forget. Number 4, the field suturing scene. After plunging through tree branches and tearing open his arm, Rambo finds shelter and calmly pulls out his survival knife. What follows isn't a kill, but it's just as hard to watch. He threads a blunt needle, pushes it through latex prosthetic flesh packed with fake blood, and drags the thread through in real time. The camera refuses to cut away, locking viewers into every wince and ragged breath. There's no music, just the wet, sticky sound of needle meeting flesh and Stallone's steady breathing. Special effects crews rigged a two-piece latex sheath and tubing for the blood, but the illusion is so convincing that rumors spread Stallone actually stitched himself. It's the kind of moment that makes grown men squirm. A brutal reminder that survival sometimes means turning violence inward, and that pain isn't always something you inflict on someone else. Number 3. The forest booby traps and maimings. Rambo's escape turns from survival to all-out guerrilla warfare the moment the deputies follow him into the woods. The traps hit fast and brutal. A wire yanks one cop's throat against a tree, another takes a knife straight to the thigh, and a third has his arm snapped by a falling branch. None of these are clean kills, but the pain is unmistakable. The props team used softwood stakes and rubber blades, but the actors' screams and frantic editing make every injury feel fatal. Sound design does the heavy lifting, snapping wires, panicked shouts, and the sickening thud of flesh on wood. There's even a friendly fire mishap as chaos takes over, driving home just how quickly control can slip away. More than any single shot, it's the pileup of agony and confusion that sticks with you, setting the stage for the film's next near-death spiral. Number 2. The cave burial by rocket blast. The tension in First Blood hits a suffocating peak when the National Guard fires a rocket straight into the mine where Rambo is hiding. There's no gunshot, no scream, just a sudden roar as the practical set collapses in a storm of dust and flying debris, swallowing Rambo whole. The camera lingers on the swirling smoke, then drops into near silence. For a moment, it feels like the film itself has stopped breathing. The mine's facade, built on a soundstage, was rigged with remote squibs and breakaway panels to create a collapse that looked deadly from every angle. Stallone and his stunt double were kept behind layers of foam and wood, but the illusion is total. Rocks crash down, dust fills the frame, and the world outside believes Rambo is dead. Sound design does the heavy lifting. After the explosion, the audio drops out, leaving only the rasp of Rambo's breath and the settling of rubble. It's not a kill in the usual sense, but the psychological effect is crushing. For the audience, this is the moment hope gets buried alive. Every second inside that tomb feels like a death sentence, and the film never lets you forget it. And finally, in first place, the helicopter cliff death that defines First Blood's most disturbing moment. Deputy Galt, perched on the Bell 206 Jet Ranger, leans out to shoot Rambo pinned to the rocks below. Rambo hurls a rock, shattering the windshield. The helicopter bucks, Galt loses his footing, and in a split second he's gone, plummeting to the riverbed in a brutal, unflinching fall. There's no slow motion, no dramatic music, just the sickening sound of impact, and a moment of silence that hangs over the scene. Stuntman Buddy Joe Hooker, harnessed and airbag protected, performed the fall in just 2 takes, risking real injury for a shot that would haunt audiences. The editing keeps Galt's death ambiguous: accident, consequence, or the cost of pushing a man too far. It's the film's only explicit fatality, and the psychological weight lands hard. For older viewers, it's not just the violence. It's the sense that anyone can become a casualty, even by accident, when lines get crossed. From the police station beating that triggered Rambo's spiral to the brutal helicopter cliff death, at the top of our list, First Blood's most disturbing kills covered a surprising range. From psychological torment to explicit on-screen fatality. What stands out across all 6 entries is how rarely the film relies on gore. Instead, the tension comes from the raw, survival-driven choices Rambo is forced to make. Several of the most unsettling moments, like the pig hunt and field suturing, aren't even about killing others. They're about the violence he endures and inflicts on himself. Yet, it's the lone accidental death of Deputy Galt that lands at number 1, underscoring the film's core message. Violence here is messy, often unintended, and always has consequences. This ranking shows that in First Blood, what disturbs most isn't the body count, but the relentless escalation from humiliation to primal survival. Ultimately, these scenes remind us that the most haunting violence on screen often comes from the psychological toll, not just the physical acts themselves.